Hare Krishna. Welcome to our channel Droplets of Nectar. Today's topic is Bhagavad Gita at a glance. We'll be seeing what Krishna gave the message in the Bhagavad Gita, whole 18th chapter at a glance. In this world, everyone seeks pleasure, but everything pales to the pleasure one receives in connection with Krishna. And Krishna's message is clearly given in Bhagavad Gita. By following this message, we will be able to achieve that highest pleasure which everyone desire for. In this lecture, I will be mostly telling only about the overview of all the chapter in very few lines. In a short way, we will be completing all the 18th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. We will not be taking any shlokas, only we will be going through it, what the chapter entails in short. Hare Krishna. So in further videos, we will be telling in detail about the whole chapter. In this only shloka, flow of the content, basically what is the content of that chapter will be entitled. So this is from a book Gita Subodhini. So let's enter into the realm of happiness, into the realm of knowledge, into the realm of Krishna's divinity. Hare Krishna. Bhagavad Gita consists of 18 chapter, 700 shlokas. It is mostly divided into 3 parts. Part 1 consists of Karma Yoga, Part 2 consists of Bhakti Yoga, and Part 3 consists of Jnana Yoga. Part 1, which is consisting of Karma Yoga, has first 6 chapter 1 to 6. Bhakti Yoga has chapter 7 to 12, and Jnana Yoga is chapter number 13 to 18. In the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, as here it is described, first chapter is entitled Arjuna observes the armies, observing the armies. In various other Gitas also there are various other names of the first chapter. So basically in this first chapter, various participants of the army are being named. Their name and their actions are being described by Duryodhana. And towards the end of the chapter, Arjuna becomes overwhelmed by compassion for the relatives, and hence he doesn't opt for fighting. So he gives total 5 reasons for not fighting. And Krishna slowly tells why these 5 reasons of Arjuna are not okay and Arjuna should opt for fighting. Basically, the 5 reasons which Arjuna tells are: firstly, he becomes overwhelmed by the compassion for the relatives. He sees everyone in the army as grandfather, grand teacher, his brother, his paternal uncle, his maternal uncles, and in a way he finds a relationship with every person in the army. So he was foreseeing no enjoyment in victory. After victory also there should be some person to whom we should enjoy with, and Arjuna was seeing no one. Third reason he gave, fearful of sinful reactions. While after killing all these persons, a lot of sinful reactions will be occurred, and Arjuna was fearful of it. Actually, we should also be fearful of the sinful reactions, but due to the onslaught of the material nature, the sinful reactions we are continuing unlimitedly, and we are not fearful of it. So Arjuna says here how he is very fearful of the sinful reactions which will be coming upon him after killing these relatives. And also Arjuna was concerned about the harmful effects of destroying the families. Arjuna decides hence not to fight. But afterwards, Dhritarashtra becomes hopeful of not losing the kingdom for his sons. But slowly, Sanjay describes how Krishna inspires Arjuna to fight, and the hopes of Dhritarashtra will be finally getting down and it will not be fulfilled. In the second chapter, the summary of whole Gita is summarized. Arjuna accepts Krishna as a guru and Krishna describes various knowledge. Karpanya dosho pahata svabhavaha vichhami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha. So in this shloka, Krishna is accepted by Arjuna as his own guru. And afterwards, in second chapter, Krishna mainly describes about the knowledge of the body and the soul. Krishna says, we are the soul encapsulated in this body. We are not this body. As we change our dress, similarly we also change our body after the death. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya. In this way he tells how after our body gets jirna, gets old, the soul changes it. So in a way, 20 shlokas have been described regarding the knowledge of the body and the soul. Afterwards, Krishna describes about Sakam Karma Yoga, doing the duty and attaining enjoyment. Krishna focuses on doing duty more than the focus on result. In Buddhi Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, working with detachment and knowledge. And finally, Krishna also describes the qualities of a Sthita Pragya, how a Sthita Pragya reacts, how he sits, how he acts, and what are these qualities. Afterwards, Krishna tells Arjuna in second chapter 49 shloka, he says, to keep all abominable actions far away by Buddhi Yoga. So Arjuna asks related to it, which of the two, renunciation and action, is better one? Renunciation is better or action is better? What is better? So this is asked by Arjuna in third chapter, first shloka. Third chapter is entitled Karma Yoga. Krishna prescribes action based on Nishkam Karma Yoga. In second chapter, Krishna has defined what is Nishkam Karma Yoga, and now in third chapter, Krishna will be fully explaining all the details of Karma Yoga, and he will be focusing rather than premature renunciation based on Jnana Yoga. He was telling rather than renunciation, Nishkam Karma Yoga is much better. Even if Arjuna is qualified for renunciation, he should still do Nishkam Karma Yoga to set the right example. And towards the end of the chapter, Arjuna asks, what is the formidable enemy? What is that particular thing which forces every individual to act which particular individual doesn't want to act? So Krishna says, lust is the formidable enemy on the path of yoga. Lust entails every living entity to act in such a way where the result is only leading to hell and nothing else. Krishna says we have to conquer this lust and we have to rise above it by applying the spiritual intelligence. Krishna presents transcendental knowledge by which one can be protected from the bondage of lust. Everyone in this world suffers from lust, and Krishna gives the secret how to get out of the clutches of the lust, and that secret is transcendental knowledge. So Arjuna inquires what is the history of the transcendental knowledge, and in the 4th chapter entitled Transcendental Knowledge, Krishna says about the disciplic succession of this transcendental knowledge. Knowing the divine nature of Lord Krishna's appearance gives liberation. Krishna says, Janma karma cha me divyam yo me veti tatvatah त्यक्त्वा देहम पुनर्जन्म नायति मामिति Arjuna. Krishna gives the secret of attaining liberation. How in a secret way, how in a shortcut way one can attain liberation, and that is nothing but the knowing of the Krishna's birth and death. Krishna's activities are very transcendental, and once we know about these activities, we can rise above these material activities. And for that, one has to require a bona fide guru. One has to take a shelter of the bona fide guru. So what are the qualities of the guru, and how we should take shelter to the guru is described in the 4th chapter. Krishna also in 4th chapter describes that karma can be understood on the platform of Gyan, and one can attain Gyan through Yajna, sacrifice. After that, in 4.39, Krishna speaks of attaining peace by Gyan and renouncing karma by Gyan in 4.41. But again, Arjuna asks to take up the karma yoga and to act in the fighting. So Arjuna again asks about renunciation, sannyas, and hence this marks the starting of the 5th chapter. 5th chapter is entitled Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. How by still doing karma yoga we can be remembering Krishna. This is the most prominent questions of every person in company, in school, while doing our actions. How can we still be Krishna conscious? How can we remember Krishna? Krishna says that both are equal, but karma yoga is easier. Nishkam karma yoga frees one from bondage. By doing Nishkam karma yoga, one will not be entitled to bondage of birth and death. One can attain liberation by focusing on the Supreme. Arjuna asks, is there any other procedures also? Then Krishna replies to that Ashtanga yoga and Bhakti yoga also are the another process which gives liberation. Then, having mentioned about the Ashtanga yoga in brief, Krishna now describes it in greater detail in 6th chapter. 6th chapter fully focuses on all the procedures and requirements of Ashtanga yoga. It is entitled Dhyan Yoga. Dhyan Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga is same. It has 2 stages. First, for the beginners, Yoga Rurukshu stage, and second for the advanced persons, Yoga Rudh stage. Ashtanga Yoga has various practices, and its perfection is to realizing the super soul. In yoga, it is necessary to control the mind by practice and detachment. Arjuna says, how can we control our mind? Arjuna is claiming that he can control the wind, but he cannot control the mind. So Krishna gives the secret of controlling the mind, art of controlling the mind, and it lies in practice and detachment. Even an unsuccessful yogi is given another opportunity to attain perfection. Bhakti yoga is the topmost yogi. Even if we fail in this yoga procedure, another opportunity will be given to us and we can perfect ourselves in the next life. In the end of the chapter, Yoginam api sarvesham madgate antaratmanah. In this shloka, Krishna says, best yogi is he who performs bhakti yogi by remembering Krishna and Krishna only. Lastly, in 6.47, Krishna says, bhakti is the highest form of yoga. From chapter 7, he describes bhakti yoga elaborately. Chapter 7 to chapter 12 starts the part 2 of Bhakti Yoga. It is specially focused on this Bhakti Yoga. In 7th chapter, knowledge of the Absolute is revealed fully. Hearing this knowledge, what happens to individual is fully described in this chapter. Krishna reveals all the knowledge about his opulence. Krishna says there are 4 types of pious people who worship Krishna and 4 types of impious people who don't worship Krishna. And people also take interest in worshipping demigods. Some people worship impersonalist, means Brahman, the Brahma Jyoti, which comes from the bodily effulgence of the Krishna. And lastly, in the 7th chapter, Krishna also says how one can be free from all sins, and when he is determined to do bhakti very seriously. At the end of the 7th chapter, Krishna gives the benefit of performing bhakti, that one can be free from all the sins which he has performed in his lifetime. Lastly, the link between the 7th to 8th chapter lies in 30th shloka, where Krishna mentions several items starting from Brahman. He elaborates them in chapter 8. Chapter 8 is entitled Attaining the Supreme. Krishna says, whoever remembers Krishna at the time of death attains him. And if living entity fails to remember Krishna and remember something else, then that living entity will attain that particular stage. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajante ante kalevaram. Krishna says, Jnanis and yogis attain liberation by path of light, and karmi comes back to this world. But a bhakta quits this material world full of miseries and attain Krishna's spiritual abode by pure bhakti. Lastly, having described the glory of the Ananya Bhakta, Krishna describes how to become such an Ananya Bhakta. We also want to know how to become such a Ananya Bhakt, for which Krishna comes and takes the personal care, as he did for Arjuna and other Pandavas. Most confidential knowledge is chapter 9 entitled. Most confidential knowledge is the knowledge of the pure bhakti. Krishna creates, maintains and destroys this world by his majestic powers. Fools and jnanis approach Krishna in different ways, but direct bhakti to the Krishna is the best way. We have to approach Krishna somehow or the other. Either we approach through bhakti directly, or indirect ways are many. Krishna is especially inclined to devotees and forgives them for their accidental mistakes. And finally, he instructs that how one can fix mind in him in the chapter 10. Krishna describes many opulences by which one can fix their mind in Krishna. Chapter 9 concludes with the famous shloka, Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. 4 things which is demanded by Krishna to every living entity for their own benefits. That we have to focus our mind on Krishna. We have to offer our pranams to Krishna. We have to go to the temple of Krishna. In this way, we can know more and more opulences of Krishna. In the 10th chapter, Krishna openly describes all the great opulences of Krishna. 10th chapter is entitled Opulences of Krishna. There are unlimited opulences. Krishna describes only few of them. Krishna says he is the origin of everything and is especially merciful to his devotees. Arjuna accepts Krishna's supreme position, and at Arjuna's request, Krishna describes all his opulences, vibhutis, which are just a spark of his splendor. He says, all pervading super soul of everything in the cosmos is none other than he himself. Krishna as Shirodaksha Vishnu lies in every living entity as the super soul. In 10.42, Krishna says that he pervades and supports the entire universe, and hence Arjuna desires to see that all pervasive universal form which is shown by Krishna in the 11th chapter, Vishwarupa. Vishwarup of Krishna consists of everything within the universe, and frightened by looking such a huge form, such a all-devouring form, Arjuna sees the Kal Rupa of Krishna that devoured everything, and everything was continuously getting devoured. Arjuna offered prayers and requested Krishna to manifest his pleasing two-handed form, which is very beautiful and which is obtainable very hard but easy to see. In 11.55, Krishna established the supremacy of Bhakti Yoga and his personal form. So in first shloka of 12th chapter, Arjuna inquires about personalists and impersonalists. One who offer to worship Krishna as his personal form or his impersonal form. So in 12th chapter, Krishna says devotional service is the highest of all spiritual paths. Krishna differentiates between the personalist and the impersonalist and gives the progressive levels of bhakti that enable people at various stages to connect with the Supreme. A devotee who possesses several glorious qualities that endear him to Krishna. Krishna describes which qualities devotees should aspire for getting more closer to Krishna. Having described Bhakti Yoga in 6th chapter, Krishna now describes Gyan Yoga in the last 6th chapter. So the part 2 ends with the chapter 12, and now in chapter 13 to 18, Bhagavad Gita says about the Gyan Yoga. It starts with description about the Kshetra and Kshetragya, nature, the enjoyer and the consciousness, stated in chapter 13. Upon Arjuna's inquiry, Krishna explains 6 topics. Kshetra, Arjuna inquired, what is Kshetra? Krishna said, Kshetra is the field or the activities of the body. Krishna then, after the inquiry of Arjuna, Kshetragya, Krishna inquired, who is Kshetragya? There are 2 Kshetragyas. Kshetragya means who knows the Kshetra, who knows the field. There are 2 knowers of the body. Krishna says, who are those 2 knowers? Soul and the Krishna himself, so as a super soul. And third question was, what is Jnanam? What is knowledge? Krishna says there are 20 elements of knowledge, starting with the first one is humility. Humility is the first basic step of knowledge. One who is knowledgeable and one who claims himself to be knowledgeable, he should be humble enough to fall at the lotus feet of every devotee and ask them for the bhakti. Fourth, Krishna is inquired by Arjuna, what is Geyam? Means what is the object of the knowledge? So Krishna says the only object of the knowledge is soul and the super soul. Next, Arjuna inquires what is Prakriti, material nature. Lastly, Arjuna inquires what is a Purusha and Jiva and Lord. So Krishna answered all these questions and finally says, a true seer has the right vision of Jiva, Prakriti and Paramatma. In 13.22, Krishna says that Jiva takes up repeated birth and death due to association with the material modes of nature. And hence, in chapter 14, Krishna explains how those modes bind Jiva and what is the way to come out of those modes. So, the chapter 14 is entitled Modes of Material Nature. There are three modes of material nature, that is Sattvagun, Rajogun and Tamogun. So, the Supreme Lord impregnates every Jiva into the womb of Prakriti that consists of these three modes. There is a competition amongst the modes and one of them becomes prominent and influences the Jiva's actions and the destination of the Jiva. Every Jivatma can only be under the control of these three modes. And how to come out of these three modes? Only by performing pure bhakti one can transcend the modes and one can come up to Shuddha Sattva stage and become Gunatita. In 14.26, Krishna described how one can transcend the modes by bhakti. Krishna says attachment to Krishna needs developing detachment to this world. In chapter 15, Krishna describes the process of detachment. So, the chapter 15 is entitled Yoga of the Supreme. The material world is like an upside down banyan tree, and one should cut it with the axe of detachment and surrender to Krishna. Due to material mind and senses, the Jiva, although a fragmental part of Krishna, transmigrates. Krishna is the maintainer of all and is above the fallible Shara and Akshara. Krishna finally says how a living entity is described by these two categories. Either he is fallible Akshar or infallible. Chapter 15 ends with this description and it links with the chapter 16 in the way that Krishna describes what are the good fruits and what are the bad fruits, means divine qualities and demonic qualities. It is greatly in detail described in the 16th chapter. What good qualities we should acquire for and what are the bad qualities we should not acquire for. Godly men are endowed with 26 divine qualities which are very greatly in detail described in 16th chapter, and demonic people have degraded qualities, asura sampada, and their activities make them enter hell and lower species. Following the scriptures causes elevation and disregarding them causes degradation. In this way, at the end, in the 23rd shloka of the 16th chapter, Krishna says that those who disregard scriptures and behave whimsically do not attain happiness in this life or the next one. Arjuna then inquires to Krishna what is the unauthorized worship, what is the not way, don'ts of worship, how one should not worship Krishna. So that is explained by Krishna in the 17th chapter entitled Division of Faith. Krishna explains that the three modes of Nature determines the people's faith, which can be known by the nature of their foods, sacrifices, austerity, and charity. Hence, Krishna described what are the foods in the three modes of nature, how one can sacrifice oneself in the three modes of nature, how one can give charity in the three modes of nature. At the end, Krishna describes about the absolute truth. And finally, the 18th chapter is the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna gives the summary of the renunciation, summary of the Bhakti Yoga. Krishna explains Tyag in three modes, 5 factors of actions, which are knowledge, work, worker, intelligence, determination, and happiness. And hence Krishna describes how our actions are determined by these 5 factors. Krishna also describes about the purification procedure and which can be attained by following Varnashram system. Krishna also describes Brahman platform. And finally, in the 18th.66, Krishna says that Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mam Ekam Sharanam Raja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Moksha Shami Ma Shuchah. Krishna takes guarantee of every living entity who is surrendering to his lotus feet, and in this way Krishna says that if one surrenders unto him, Krishna will surely take care of every living entity. Then at the end of this discussion, Sanjay finally says, in whose side Krishna and the Arjuna will be there, their victory is guaranteed. No one in even dream can ever defeat such team who has Krishna and Arjuna on their side. Hence the doubt of Dhritarashtra was removed. This is the conclusion of whole Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.